Okay, let's get going here. I've got a lot of stuff to get to. This is the Midnight Skeptic, by the way. And so I will play my in music. You are listening to KPCA LP, Petaluma, California, at 103.3 FM and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. And this is the Midnight Skeptic. The views of the Midnight Skeptic are not, repeat, not necessarily the views of KPCA or any of its affiliates. Okay, this is the Midnight Skeptic Show number 109. It'll be broadcast out on KPCA LP 103.3 FM this coming Sunday, the 26th of February. It's going to be uploaded onto YouTube like right now. When is now? Okay, today is President's Day, February 20th. And I'm doing this recording quite soon. There's about a week, roughly, before it goes out to the worldwide audience on kpca.fm. But I wanted to get it up on YouTube like now or tonight. It's about 9:30, kind of late at night, but I just had to watch the Stanford women's basketball game, one of the few that was broadcast on a nationwide network. They won by 4 points, I believe. It was close against UCLA. Okay, I'm an avid follower of women's basketball, but just Stanford. I don't watch basketball just to be watching basketball. I follow the Warriors. I follow the Stanford women. Okay, enough of that. Okay, the Midnight Skeptic, as I always say, and have been answering people on my Facebook page, I am proudly woke. And all hate mail, death threats, and hopefully some constructive criticisms or constructive suggestions will be sent to me. themidnightskeptic@gmail.com. All lowercase, all one word. I'm on every Sunday night at 9 o'clock. After a couple of years, I just went on to the personalities and programming schedule of kpca.lp at the Petaluma Community Access, and on Sunday, the Midnight Skeptic, but they said every other Sunday. That's not true. I'm every Sunday now. For a brief period about 2 years ago, I was doing it every other Sunday because, frankly, it's a lot like homework to research all of these things. I really do want to be accurate in what I say, unlike Fox News. And my thousands and thousands of listeners and YouTube watchers will benefit from my research. Anyway, but I'm doing it every week. And there's just too many things happening that I just can't let it go. So here we are. I've called Petaluma Community Access to change that, and I hope it gets done soon. Says I'm on every other Sunday. I'm every Sunday, 9 p.m. Okay, real quick. My catchphrase, I forgot to write that down, but my goal is to do my little bit this show to rid this country of all GOP MAGA Head Republicans one broadcast at a time. And I'm going to say a thing or two about my disdain for MAGA heads and what I think of Republicans in general, with the exception of some relatives and some friends that I have. Not many, but they are Republicans, and they're thoughtful and kind and, understanding. They just have economic differences from me. And those are things that can be discussed rationally. Okay, where am I? I'm off my notes already. Man. Okay, I'm going to get to this. I'm aware that not all Republicans are MAGA heads. To my handful of relatives and friends that are Republicans, and a few out here, a few back on the East Coast, my late wife's relatives, a few of them are Republicans. That was an announcement from, I don't know who. Anyway, sometimes it's important if it actually tries to draw your attention to the announcement. Okay, to my Republican friends and relatives, I wouldn't have you as friends, or I wouldn't have anything to do with relatives that are MAGA heads. And I'll tell you what I think MAGA heads really are. I mean, there's a number of things that make me have an utter disdain for them. Okay, and on this show, and it's been, I'm working on my 6th year now. When I do my stupid acting imitation of a MAGA head, CRT, I hate it. They're grooming our kids. They're indoctrinating everybody. Our kids are being taken advantage of. I don't want my kids in kindergarten to have to choose their gender like liberals want them to. That kind of stuff. It's fun for me to do that, but it's an exaggeration, but MAGA heads are like that. My friends and a few relatives who are Republicans are just not like that. Okay, so don't take offense, but some have already. Okay. Now, let's see. MAGA head Republicans are like schoolyard bullies and the mean girls in school. Their first response is to mock, make fun of, or belittle, or laugh at anything they don't understand or agree with. And I'm talking about Republican GOP MAGA head politicians and the MAGA heads that go to these stupid Trump rallies. Okay, worst case scenario, MAGA heads will shoot at you with their long, hard AK-49, is that right? AK-47s? Long rifles, assault rifles, that should be outlawed like it was for about 10 years during the administration back in the 90s. Brain freeze already. Anyway, the ban on the assault rifles that was introduced and passed in our federal government by Dianne Feinstein, it sunsetted after 10 years. It really did work because mass shootings went down. Okay. The Clinton administration. That's what I was trying to think of and had a brain freeze on. Okay. I'm talking about MAGA heads who belittle, laugh at anything they don't understand or agree with, and they might shoot you. I mean, they certainly parade around with their long guns. And then they will pile on like gangs of bullies on minorities. For instance, the LGBTQ community. And the T in that is what they're currently obsessed with, transgender kids. Okay, I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Okay. Did I even do the shout outs? Okay. I still have a few international listeners, watchers, whatever, over in the EU, one in Germany, a couple in UK, a couple in Canada, a couple in Australia, a couple in New Zealand. So here I am. I'm still going at it. Okay. And this show via kpca.fm gets to them via anchor.fm and Spotify and 5 other platforms. Okay. Locally, Nariman, let's see. Okay, I don't have them written down, so I'm going to tax my brain. Tom Gaffey, in addition to Nariman, John Crowley over at Aquas, Tom and Nancy, Kevin and Lori, Keith and Cody, Sebastopol, Rich and Kathy, my brother Brandon and Mina down in Arizona, and their daughter Andrea, my niece, her husband Tim, and their 3 little kids. Tiburon, Dennis and Megan. Wedding is just around the corner. Okay, San Francisco, Yvonne Santos. In Pacifica, Stan and Kathy. And Susan, the Lefty Miller. Okay, Arkansas, Shannon Reed. Florida, Nelson and Alice Lydell. And Amelia Beamer. North Carolina, Raleigh-Durham area, Dr. Dave, the Pulmonary King. And Long Island, Geraldine Goldfinger. Arizona again. Karina Hilliard, the snake lady. I keep forgetting to mention her. Okay, the Sonora Crowd. Okay, Robert and Colleen Finnegan, Bob and Sandy Fisher, and their 2 kids, Brad and Martha, who's a nurse. Wear your PPE and take care. Okay, Darrell, Judy, Leonidas, Lynn Quayle, Kathy Francis, John Gleason, his 2 daughters, Tiffany and Jennifer, and then down in Mexico City, Rosamalia Lopez Negrete, who just had a birthday. Okay. Whew, I made it. Okay. Where am I? Okay, good news. The Midnight Skeptic is a union guy. I've retired from both the Teamsters and the UFCW, the United Food and Commercial Workers Union, where I retired from Safeway. Okay, I am enough of a socialist that I think, and there are people who agree with me, that the railroads over the whole country should be nationalized. And way back, I mean, I'm talking a long time now, before I went into the Navy and finished up college after the Navy, I worked for the Atchison, Topeka, and the Santa Fe. I got the job because my grandfather was a station agent in Stockton, California. And then after I got out of the Navy, I worked briefly for the Southern Pacific in clerical positions and changing yard positions, where you keep track of all these cars and what they're carrying, what their number is on the side. I did that. And so I'm a little bit familiar with the railroads, and in between assignments there in the office, there's all sorts of reference books about railroads and who owns them, where they go, what they do, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so anyway, but now I'm in agreement that they should be nationalized. Railroad, okay, this is a quote from, let's see, who is this? It's some official from the RWU, Rail Workers United. Each of the jobs on railroads have their own unions, and it shouldn't be that way. I mean, we don't need firemen anymore. Engineers, the guys that pull the levers and run the trains, we only need one guy to do that. The firemen used to be the guys that shoveled coal into the steam engines. Well, okay, and then the conductors are the guys that had the lists of cars and where they all went to and the manifests on each of the cars. And the brakemen were the guys that, pull the brakes or pull the little handle to disconnect the cars. I mean, they each had their unions. We don't need that. But what we do need is one large RWU, Rail Workers United. They should organize all these guys and put them under the federal government. There, I said it. Railroads should be nationalized. And I know that Republican GOP MAGA heads would just faint and start calling me names like, that's socialism. Well, yes, it is. Okay, I was going to quote some guy. Okay, the Rail Workers United head said, and I totally agree. Okay. My notes are not that organized. Okay, quote from him. Railroads are like utilities, natural monopolies. The consolidation of the Class 1 railroads, I guess that means the bigger ones, in the U.S. into 5 massive companies over the past several decades has made it clear that there is no free market in rail transportation. Here. And to wit, the Norfolk Western, this railroad company, this massively large railroad company, Norfolk Western, that wouldn't spend money on upgrading their automatic braking system and the massive derailment in Palestine, Ohio, resulted. Okay, if they were run by the federal government, any better method to come along, like automatic braking systems, would be installed, I hope. Okay. All right, enough about that. Okay. I'm a socialist. I admit it. I'm a Bernie Sanders type guy. Maybe I'm even a little more lefty than he is. Okay. Good news, if it happens. Okay, Senator Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren led a group of lawmakers, had to be Democrats, Monday on February 13th, in introducing the Social Security Expansion Act. It would increase everybody's Social Security payments by $200 a month, roughly, and lift the cap on the maximum income subject to Social Security tax, which is now at $160,200. So you earn that much money and then you pay Social Security taxes. Rich dudes that make more than that annually, okay, they're still Social Security tax won't go up beyond the maximum. Okay, 93% of U.S. households would not see their taxes increase. Social Security would be fully funded if we did this through 2096. I'm old enough. I'm collecting Social Security. It's, let me say it's adequate, because that plus the pensions I'm getting from, they're not large pensions. I'm getting a small one from the Teamsters, because when I was working in the beer distribution industry as a salesman, I was there long enough to get vested. I worked a much longer time in retail, Safeway, and Safeway, I don't know, back in 2006 or 7, I forget, bought out the quote-unquote old-timers and convinced us to take an early retirement. Well, I did, because I was also making money doing private tutoring, and then I got a very, very part-time job at Gong and Gong here in Petaluma, a G&G supermarket. They were started and owned by a Chinese family. They paid almost as much as what Safeway paid, but, 2 nights a week I did that, and I'm fine. Sip, sip, sip. Oh, okay, where am I? Okay. Onward. Nikki Haley is fully embracing in her announcement that she's running for president. Who's she embracing? Pastor John Hagee, capital Hagee. Okay, as she announced her GOP run for the presidency as a challenger to the orange sociopathic bloat bag. Hagee does not believe in global warming. He believes in enslaving pregnant women until they give birth. And in other words, in his words, he's pro-life, which is a misnomer. I've talked about that on a lot of shows. He is anti-Catholic, but pro-State of Israel. He's anti-Muslim. He suggested that the Holocaust was, are you ready for this? Willed by God because most Jews ignored Theodore Herzl's Zionism and didn't return to Israel. She, Haley, will go nowhere in 2024. What she's actually doing is running for vice president on the Republican MAGA Head ticket. Okay. New topic. Are GOP states trying to erase transgender people? I modified this Sunday's Chronicle headline. It originally said some states. Okay. Here's the article. I'm showing it to my YouTube people, and it says, are some states trying to erase trans people? I changed the headline. I wish they would just, headline writers and news anchors would just say that it's Republican GOP MAGA heads doing it. Okay, I'm off my notes yet again. Okay, modified the headline. I wish the media would not be so wishy-washy and say that it's the GOP doing this and passing anti-trans laws. It's not most of them, it's all of them. Okay. I don't really understand the deep down motivation of the GOP MAGA head, mean, cruel, piling on to the transgender community and the LGBTQ community more broadly. I posed a question on my Facebook page. It's not an announcement of this show. I just, my Facebook says, what's on your mind, Dave? And so I posed this question. And here it is, verbatim. Quote, can anyone explain to me, and in parentheses, logically, this obsession by the GOP MAGA heads with making life as difficult and painful as possible for transgender kids, ? Where did it come from? My theory is it came from evangelical Christianity. And then I ended it by saying, am I wrong? ? Okay. I got a few responses, actually too few. One was to label gender-affirming medical care as, quote unquote, castration and mutilation of kids. My assurances to this person that medical care, my eyes skipped down a line. My assurances that kids under 18 are not surgically altered got nowhere. And the GOP MAGA head Republican right-wingers, people who post falsehoods online, are really going off the deep end in this time. The institution that they're railing against, I rant, they rail, is Boston Children's Hospital. They, along with the handful of other hospitals that do perform surgical procedures on genitalia, none of them do it to kids that are under 18. But right-wing nuts post these things, and one of the main creeps that do this is that lady that is the eminence grease behind libs of TikTok. And there's other, I mean, really, I looked at all of these, not all, because there's just too many. And you could sort of tell which sites are right-wing MAGA Head sites and which sites are just legitimate gender care facilities. Okay, so I could tell where this person who used castration and mutilation, those are just invented, well, they aren't invented words, but they're words that are being encouraged to be used by right-wing messenger gurus. Okay, tough kids. All right, enough of the riff on that topic. Okay, new topic. A good post I ran across on my Facebook page is, quote, "Imagine your history being so horrible you want to ban people from learning it." Ron DeSantis, are you listening? Florida, are you listening? Okay, here's bad news. Mike McCall is a Republican from Texas. The House GOP chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee wants to investigate State Department grants to atheist and humanist groups in the Mideast and North Africa, meaning Muslim religious areas. Okay, and this is a quote from him, Mike McCall, a Republican, Texas. Quote, "The House GOP majority will not tolerate the unconstitutional and harmful funding of atheism abroad. Americans believe in the free exercise of religion, as long as it's Christianity, not state-supported atheism, and taxpayers should not have to fund such atheist organizations." Now, I'm going on a future show, maybe next week, maybe 2 weeks. CFI, the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry, sponsors organizations around the world where atheists, doubters, apostates are being targeted by radical religious mobs. I'm going to talk about all that later, not this show. Okay. A good observation from the skeptic community, of which I am a proud member. Okay, you don't see faith healers working in hospitals for the same reason you don't see psychics winning lotteries. Here. All right, silly news, but potentially dangerous. Another GOP MAGA Head House Republican is busted. I got to start using my sound effects more than I do. Maybe it will increase the entertainment value of this show. Okay. Let's see. Let me try that again. Okay. Another GOP MAGA head House Republican is busted. That works. Okay. What did he do? For fabricating his background and giving GOP George Santos a run for his money. Andy Ogles, capital Ogles. He's a Republican, of course he is, from Tennessee, claimed in his run for a House seat, 5th District in Tennessee, that he was an economist. He was a tax policy expert, a trained police officer, and expert in international sex crimes and child trafficking. It all fell apart. Every time he appeared on a debate stage or at one of his voter turnout rallies, he would always begin his speech about himself with, as an economist. Well, all of that just fell apart. News Channel 5 from Nashville's Phil Williams, an investigative reporter, says, quote, "There's little evidence that Ogles ever received any formal training in economics. He did go to a Middle Tennessee State University, where he claimed to have studied policy and economics. No, he didn't. He was an English major, which is okay. Middle Tennessee State University didn't confirm Ogles' degree, and they cited federal law that allows students to block the release of their educational credentials. Okay, he also cited on his resume at being an quote-unquote executive director for the Laffer Center for Supply-Side Economics. Now, I'm going to talk about the Laffer curve. This goes all the way back to the Reagan administration, but not this show. On some future show, I'll attempt to explain how fallacious the Laffer curve and supply-side economics is wrong, as well as trickle-down economics. Okay, where am I? But he, Andy Ogles, but he was not an executive director, although he worked there in an office capacity. In a candidates forum, he said, quote, my midlife crisis, I went into law enforcement. I worked in human trafficking. The News Channel 5 investigation revealed he was sworn in as a, you ready for this? Volunteer reserve deputy with the Williamson County Sheriff's Office in 2009. Records show that he lost that position 2 years later for not meeting standards, making no progression in field training, and failure to attend required meetings. He has no other law enforcement connections, and none were found by Phil Williams, the Channel 5 news guy from Nashville. There's more, but the Midnight Skeptic's time is valuable. I'm not going to go into every single little lie that he told, but he's giving George Santos a run for his money. I wrote down in my notes, WTF, and you know what that stands for. What WTF is it with GOP MAGA Head politicians? Is lying just baked into their ethos? I would say yes, it is. Okay, and there's yet another a female, Anna Paulina Luna, capital Luna. She's a Republican from the 13th District in Florida. I'm not going to go into everything that she said that was false. One of the main things is that she claimed to be Jewish, and she's not. Her relatives all said that she was raised Catholic, as was her mom and dad and grandparents. Okay, my throat is beginning to dry out drastically here. Excuse me while I sip. This is just water with a squirt of lime juice in it. Okay. Vitamin C. Okay. This is bad, but inevitable news. Ex-President Jimmy Carter chooses in-home hospice care and not more hospitalizations. At the time he was our president, and he served one term, he was kind of viewed as an ineffectual president. But looking back on what might have been had he won a second term, I think this country would have been much better off. He lost the 1980 election to Ronald Reagan, and I will go into the genesis of that on a show. And I have a confession. I voted for Ronald Reagan on his first run. He obviously was well spoken on the debate stage. And I remember, and I watched it on TV, I remember him saying, Reagan, there you go again, President Carter. You know, that sort of resonated with the audience and with voters. Anyway, Reagan was a great communicator, and he was, for most of his earlier life, a Democrat, a Franklin Delano Roosevelt Democrat. He was head of the Screen Actors Guild. And I talked about Reagan, I think, on the last show or 2 shows ago. His quote was, I didn't leave the party, meaning the meaning the Democratic Party. It left me. Okay. Anyway, I hope you all know that environmentalism was a favorite topic of President Carter. He was a naval officer that was well trained in nuclear energy, and his science background was unimpeachable. And he put, can you believe this? Solar panels on the roof of the White House, which, when Reagan took over, had them taken down immediately. The influence of the fossil fuel industries came to the forefront during his 2 4-year administrations. Okay. And the fossil fuel industry has not let up. Unless you're burning coal and oil, you're not a patriot. Okay. Oh, I'm off my notes, as you can probably tell. The Midnight Skeptic urges all of my thousands and thousands of YouTubers and listeners to take the Jimmy Carter Challenge. Well, what's that? Do something nice for someone today. If they need a phone call, call them. If they need a personal visit for whatever reason, visit them. If they need help with household chores or shopping or whatever, do it. Jimmy Carter, his life after the White House has been such a pleasure to learn about, see on TV. He was with Habitat for Humanity almost up until the very end. And before he got really involved with that, he was associated with an international organization. I think it was run by the UN that monitored elections in foreign countries to see that they were on the up and up. Okay? That's what he did. He was a humanitarian, and he was born, and he will probably pass on very soon in his town of Plains, Georgia. Okay? Okay, anyway, that's the President Jimmy Carter Challenge. All of my listeners and viewers should get out there and help your neighbor and do something nice for somebody today. I doubt if any Republican GOP MAGA heads will take the President Jimmy Carter Challenge. Can you imagine what would happen if the orange sociopathic bloat bag passes away? Who will mourn him? It's just good riddance. Even Republicans are hoping that the orange sociopathic bloat bag will just die and go away. And I wish that too. There, I said it. Okay. Okay, bad news, but I'm calling her out. Tulsi Gabbard is a Russian asset and an inspiration to the pro-Putin wing of the GOP, MAGA Head wing of the Republican Party. There was a smallish gathering of pro-Putin people and pro-Russian people at the Washington, D.C., I forget, I'm having a brain freeze on what they call it. It goes from the Capitol building all the way down to the Washington Monument. It's a grassy park, and there's a name for it, and I can't remember. There's a reflective pool there. That's where these protesters were gathering around. They were waving Russian flags. This is on the news today. And there were a few Okay, it was a collection of nuts, is what it was. There were QAnons, there were assorted other conspiracy theorists, and then Tulsi Giffords got up and gave them an inspirational speech, cheering on their efforts. This group wanted us to not help Ukraine, to cut off military assistance. And I don't know where those sentiments came from or are still coming from. But anyway, Tulsi Gabbard, where's my finger? I'm calling you a Russian asset. If you want to sue me, you know where I am. Okay? Okay, a little bit of bad news. Well, it's not. It's a lot of bad news. Insurrectionist Kevin McCarthy, I call him Kevin McSpineless, just gave 41,000 hours of security tapes that were from cameras sprinkled around the Capitol building from the January 6th insurrection. Well, who did he give it to? Tucker Carlson of Fox News. Boy, are their editors going to start plowing through all this, and they're going to make up a tape that will jive with their narrative that all of these insurrectionists were just, tourists, and the doors were open, so they wandered in, and there may have been a few rowdy people, but nothing to worry about. I guarantee you that's going to come out of all this. Thank you, Kevin McSpineless. Okay, now I've got about 5 or 6 more minutes. Okay, recent historical bad news. I'm not going to go into an entire history lesson on this, but I want my readers and YouTubers to remember this. Remember Paul Manafort? Okay, he made millions of dollars from then Ukraine and Russia, and probably some of these oligarchs. Okay, he helped the anti-NATO party in Ukraine get Viktor Yanukovych elected as the president of the Ukraine, with help from Russia, of course. They helped him get into power. Yanukovych fled Ukraine on February 22nd, 2014. Okay, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Coming up on the 9th year anniversary of the uprising of pro-democracy Ukrainians that wanted to oust this guy. Well, he fled on February 22nd, 2014, after mobs of pro-democracy protesters took over Kyiv. Volodymyr Zelensky soon thereafter was elected president in not that soon, in 2019. There's a 5-year gap there. But anyway, Volodymyr Zelensky was elected president 2019. The orange sociopathic bloat bag who was president at that time, looking ahead to the 2020 election, the orange sociopathic bloat bag Okay, I can't read my handwriting here. He threatened, God, that's what I'm trying to say. He threatened to withhold military and other aid and tried to blackmail Ukraine into finding or inventing evidence against Joe Biden and or Hunter Biden, thinking that scandals involving the Bidens would gain him a few more votes in the 2020 election. I really have my doubts about if there was some evidence manufactured or otherwise against Joe or Hunter. How many votes would that have swayed? Joe Biden won the 2020 election by 7 million votes. Okay. You'd never believe the election deniers, which are all Republicans, by the way. More sips. Okay. Hunter Biden's laptop is still an issue with GOP MAGA Head Republicans. Give it a rest, for God's sakes. Okay, September 24th, 2019, House impeachment for the orange sociopathic bloat bag scheme. Partisan Senate, there's Republicans that were there. At that time, we were 50-50, I believe. Okay. I'm not sure about that. Okay. But anyway, a partisan Senate vote found the orange sociopathic bloat bag not guilty. He was not found guilty of an impeachment. And Marie Yovanovitch, who was the ambassador to Ukraine during all this, was smeared by the orange sociopathic bloat bag's election advisors, and which ended her 30-year career, not degree. Boy, I'm starting to skip over my words. Okay. Okay. Oh, I gotta play my out music. You have been listening to The Midnight Skeptic on KPCA LP, Petaluma, California. And we're at 103.3 on the FM dial and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. Support community radio at patreon.com/Petaluma Community Access. And remember, think critically, think logically, but live joyously, and most importantly, pet your cats. Okay, it's 58 minutes and 36 seconds. Oh boy, I'm going to be cut off just a little bit. But anyway, sip a little red wine, pet your cats, and breathe. Just breathe. Okay. I will, let's see, the next show will be broadcast on Sunday the 5th, but I'm going to record it, I don't know, on February 28th or March 1st or something. I'll be back at you again. Okay? Goodbye for another week.